Buenas tardes a todos. Bienvenidos. Para una mejor experiencia, les solicitamos por favor que mantengan sus micrófonos en mute. Todo el material que presentaremos puede ser utilizado para difusión y promoción. Muchas gracias y que disfruten del evento.
Bienvenidos todos y cada uno de ustedes a otro evento de Lifetime. Hoy día tenemos el gran honor de ser acompañados por la única, fabulosa e increíble Teri Hatcher, recordada por papeles tan importantes como Luis y Superman o Amas de Casas Desesperadas. Hoy, Teri Hatcher está haciendo varias películas con Lifetime y la primera de ellas es justamente esta, la historia de Ruth Finley, de la cual queremos compartir con ustedes el trailer.
Are you married to Ruth Finley?
Yes.
Did you abduct your wife? Did you stab your wife?
A Lifetime original movie.
Whoever is doing this has some similarities to the BTK killer.
Rich from the headlines.
He's never gonna stop, is he?
You remember that night, don't you?
Based on a true story.
It's okay if you're not holding it together. I know you. You bake when you're anxious.
Teri Hatcher.
No footprints, no witnesses. Some things don't add up.
This is crazy.
You are going to stay here until you confess.
Do you think I did this?
La verdad de Ruth Finley por Lifetime.
Now is the time to introduce you to a fabulous, amazing lady, one who has been always in every screen, always owning the screen and owning the light and every shot. It's a pleasure for us to introduce you to Teri Hatcher.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. That's so sweet. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, you have been always an amazing, popular, enigmatic figure in our TV, from the times of Luis and Superman to the times of Desperate Housewives, and now we're seeing Teri Hatcher in a very different, totally role, unexpected for so many of your fans. Tell us how this project landed in your hands.
Well, Lifetime is doing really giving a lot of opportunities to women to tell very unique and interesting, compelling stories. And so they approached me with this project. And, you know, I liked most people do know me for comedy, and so it was a pretty big departure. I've never had the opportunity to play a real person, a story based on a real person. And so that was interesting to dive into. But I'm very curious at this time in my life about, the intricacies of people, their mental health, why people behave the way they do or not, and society and humanity. And so this movie really allows you an opportunity to look into all of that.
This is not a fictional character, but it's a very multi-layer and very complex character. How do you were able to personify this person in such a depth?
I'm going to try not to give anything away. I don't want to spoiler alert on the movie, but I thank you for asking that question. I feel like my work as an actress, and it was important to me, as much as I could find out about the real person, I wanted to be able to do honor to, her and what that story was. But I think this is a look at anxiety, which I think we can all relate to. And, it was a very anxious time in the community where this story takes place, because there was a serial killer, the BTK killer, on the loose at the time. And so obviously the whole community was living in a heightened anxiety anyway. But I think for Ruth, it's really a look at what anxiety can do to a person and to their mental health, and how do people, or does this woman, how does she manage her anxiety, and at what point does it take her over? And so for me, I remember one thing specifically that was happening to me while I was shooting this movie. I actually had a previous work engagement in Europe, and so I had to fly to Europe and do a couple of days of work, and then I had to fly back to Canada to start filming this movie. And because I was on the time change from America to Europe and then back to Canada, but also trying to anticipate learning all my lines and making all my decisions about the work I was going to have in the Ruth Finley movie, I myself was experiencing a lot of anxiety, which was showing up in insomnia for me. And so I at one point I was having another sleepless night after sleepless night in a row, and I could feel like my heart pounding and like my head just, so, I don't know, just pulsing with anxiety. And I sort of thought, oh, this is the universe offering me a look into what it is like to be a deeply anxious person, which I'm not really. I thankfully, knock on wood, I don't deal with anxiety in my own personal life on any kind of, level that's chronic. And so that was my work, was to really try to ground myself in what is it like to live as an anxious person all the time.
I'm seeing you. We're celebrating right now International Women's Month, as you know, around the world. We're celebrating the month of the woman. But it's very brave,
Yes.
generous, and compassionate from you to go all the way in a very big departure to share what mental health disorders can do to someone. So tell me and share with all of us why you decide to take a role like that and what it means to you to be an example of vulnerability, to showcase other women that vulnerability, in a way, is the best strength that anybody can have.
Oh, wow, that's a lot to unpack, both personally and professionally in this part. Just coming to what I was saying about Lifetime, Lifetime, it seems to be offering women a lot of opportunity to be empowered in their art. And I'm very grateful to them as a company for offering that kind of support system for women to continue to tell their stories through art. I think, it's a lot of my friends are very into the sort of ripped from the headlines stories, and I think the reason people are so curious about those kinds of traumatic and dramatic stories is because, I think in a way we can all feel like, for the grace of God, we could be living that. And so it's interesting to look into the window of what someone else's life is and sort of feel empathy for them, but also feel, grateful for what we are not experiencing. And in terms of vulnerability and how that plays out in my own life and in my work, even in, I feel that I try to be very open and honest and vulnerable and, not ashamed to be admitting when something feels difficult or something feels scary or that I made a mistake or, that I'm not perfect. And I think I like to work through that lens of honesty and vulnerability. And I think it has allowed audiences, both through my work and also just through sort of my activism and who I am as a person and a parent and a friend, that it's allowed people to connect with me. And, that's kind of what's important to me in the world, especially today, is just that we all try to stay connected and we try to stay empathetic and generous with our support of each other. It's just more important than ever.
Couldn't agree more with you. Now, Lifetime, as you know, is a platform for women that showcase the perspective of a woman for every single story that Lifetime tells. So, what it means to Teri Hatcher to become now an actress and hopefully a producer or director in near future.
Well, yeah, the older I get, I don't know, there's sort of a comfort and acceptance that I'm finding in aging, but I'm also feeling empowered to try to find and tell stories that resonate with me now. And so working with different people to try to execute that, it's really exciting. And I do feel like there are people out there that want to be entertained by those stories and want to be a part of those stories. So, I have explored further projects with Lifetime. I hope that works out. We'll see where it goes.
And we also know that you're going to be in 2 Lifetime Christmas movies this year for Latin America and Brazil. One of the movies is How to Fall in Love by Christmas and Christmas at the Chalet. So, talking about departure, how do you feel about this, Teri?
Well, I love Christmas movies and I love Christmas. I have a lot of traditions around Christmas. I build my Christmas village in my house and I do a lot of cooking and entertaining. And I just think the holidays are a wonderful time for everyone to get together. And so I am one of those people that constantly has Christmas movies, on every single day. And I love them. They're playful. They're usually comedic. Yeah, I love that. And, I'm hoping to make another one this year, to be hopefully filming another one this year.
Going to be here waiting for the next Teri Hatcher movie to enjoy, especially if those are Lifetime Christmas movies. But now, if you have to recommend this movie about Ruth Finley, how you recommend to a friend to watch this movie and why?
I really do think you'll enjoy it. It was really well directed, beautiful art direction. The other actors in the piece are all wonderful performers. And there's a love story element to it, just in terms of the relationship of the husband and wife, and where that does or doesn't go. I'm not going to give anything away. But yeah, I really do think you will absolutely find yourself going, this can't be real. This cannot have actually happened. And I think it's rare when you find that kind of story to tell. And that's what this one is, which will be, it's a slow build. It's a really deep, subtle look at the psychological state of Ruth as she's going through this incredibly anxious and intense time in her community with this serial killer. But the payoff is fascinating. So I think it's worth watching.
Thank you so much. Now we are going to go to the Q&A from our media
Okay.
outlets from Brazil, Argentina, Colombia, Chile, and Peru. We are ready, Mariana, whenever you are.
Yes, Víctor Vieira from Noticias da TV, UOL, Brazil.
Hi, how are you? Thanks
Hi.
for having me. Throughout your
Oh, thank you
career,
for
you
being here.
throughout your career, you portrayed a diverse range of characters, from the fiercest Lois Lane to the complex and vulnerable Ruth Finley. How do you mentally and emotionally prepare to embody such a distinct personalities? And is there a particular role that challenges you the most? Thank you.
Oh, thank you for your question. I think each character is just a life of their own. You go into each job not really emboldened by the jobs that you've done before, because each character is new, and so there's a level of challenge and risk and fun in the craft of that. I mean, that's why one of the reasons I love being an actress, because every part is different. It's really heartwarming to me that so many people throughout the world really continue to bring up the character of Lois Lane and the way that I manifested her, and the character of Susan Meyer. It means a lot to me that generations really of people and families have had those characters and those shows as part of entertainment that they have shared together and enjoyed. I mean, it's really an honor to know that, families have sat at their kitchen table watching me on Lois and Clark for like decades. It's kind of crazy. But I'm I'm really grateful that I continue to have parts like Ruth Finley offered to me, so that, I can challenge myself to, push myself to new areas that I haven't done before. And I continue to do that. And I will continue to do that.
Let's go to the next question, please.
Rolando Gallego from Diario Hoy, Argentina.
Hi, Terry. Nice to meet you. I'd like to know, this year, Demi Moore and Pamela Anderson had their big comebacks in business. I'd like to know, how do you live the change in the business and the evolution of roles and treatment of women in Hollywood? Is any secret to stay relevant in the business?
Well, first of all, I think that's amazing and great. It's really wonderful to see what has happened for them, and I hope that that continues. And there are many women in Hollywood that are, carving the way. I mean, I think you've heard both of them say, which I would echo. It's a combination of persistence. It's not easy for women to age anywhere, let alone in Hollywood. I think society is still dominated by, a devaluing of aging, and probably not just for females, but certainly more for women. So I think persistence is part of it. I think there's many times you feel like, should I give up? And it's the idea that you can't and you don't want to, and you have to know what your purpose is in sort of continuing on. But I do think that you use the word like relevant, and I think I wouldn't think about it that way. I don't think I ever thought about myself like, am I relevant? And maybe I should. I mean, maybe it is a competitive industry where you have to consider that. But to me, I would more focus from the lens of, do I have something that might be helpful to someone to say? You know, when I kind of stuck my toe into stand-up comedy a couple of years ago, under the umbrella of funny women of a certain age, and telling stories that from my life that I thought were funny about aging. And the response that I got from that, from the community of people going like, oh my God, that's how I feel. That happened to me. And now I feel better to know that it's not just me, that it's happening to you too. That idea that you could produce art, whether it's comedic or dramatic, that somehow makes people feel inspired or feel less alone or feel just entertained. That to me is the drive. Not so much about asking myself if I'm relevant. I'm asking myself, how can I help people? How can I do something that will be inspiring, that will, you know, offer relief or comfort? And so I'm trying to generate my own projects that I think will do that. Some of which I can act in, and some of which maybe I would direct instead. And that's where I come from as my creativity continues to grow. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much for that. Next question, Mariana. We are here.
Yes, Luz Castillo from Bea Magazine, Colombia.
Hello?
We have another question from Colombia. Meanwhile, Ruth is a very emotional, charged role. You certainly managed to connect with this real situation in the film in order to transmit that in a very authentic way. How did you experience this story? What new feelings or old feelings and emotions did you experience as an actress to play this complex woman?
Whew. I'm almost going to cry. It's weird how that stuff comes up. It was a very deep role. I think that I did connect into some very deep, very old personal wounds. I don't think that you have to do that in order to play a character like this. But again, without giving anything away in the movie, I think there oddly was some connective experience that I had that, you know, I had to be willing to sit in. Or at least I found sitting in it allowed me to kind of bring up what I felt was a very authentic connection of like what Ruth was going through. So yeah, it was a pretty dark place to sit in. Some people find that stuff cathartic. I don't know that I really needed catharsism in the process of working. It wasn't what I was looking for. I mean, I think it was hard. I mean, there was a little bit of recovery, it was a kind of a movie where you go like, okay, I'm going to rest now for a few weeks. I'm going to pamper myself, get a massage or something. Yeah, because it was kind of dark, but the director and the cast were so supportive. Like it really was a team effort. And some of the scenes towards the end of the movie where you really, you really see how frail and, kind of destroyed Ruth is. When we would do those scenes, I mean, the other actors in the film, like they just had my back. Like they were just there with such support. So it really is that, that it takes a village kind of a thing. I really had a great support system on the whole movie. I was very grateful for that.
I'm really glad you did. you deserve it. Now, from El Universal Mexico, the question is the following. Is so many, I mean, in the case of Ruth, she was under very big anxiety and mental situation. However, it's a reality that many women in Latin America, and especially in Mexico, are abused or are victims of sexual harassment, different kind of physical and mental abuse. And how do you sympathize, or how, from the compassionate point of view, you can tell these women that life will get better or will go on? Is any consolation on that? Is any way to fall and get up?
Yeah. Well, as a survivor myself, and of course, Ruth is, has that history also. I think the first thing that comes to mind is to know that it's not your fault. I think, women that are put in those situations and have those experiences often walk away, with a lot of shame and blame about what their part was in it when you had no part in it, that you were a victim and it's not your fault. So I think hearing that hopefully makes people know, and it's not just women, by the way, men can be violated also. I think that's important. I think, finding a support system, reaching out for help, being a part of a group, a healing group where, you will have empathy and compassion that will surround you and support you. I think that's really important. And I mean, I'm a survivor of child abuse. So that's obviously decades and decades ago. And I think at some point, decades later, whatever, I chose to be, responsible for, like, what do I want my life to be from here on out? And I don't want to be defined by that experience. So that was sort of my adult, character that wanted to not be a victim and wanted to be a survivor, and not just a survivor, but like a thriver. And so I think, like I said, again, reaching out for support, whether that's through books or podcasts or an actual therapist or friends, to help yourself move to a place where you can be a thriving survivor, and to know that the things that happen to you are not your fault and that they don't dictate your future.
Thank you so much, and you're a true warrior. Now we go to the next question. Mariana, can you help me?
Yes, Luke Castillo from Bea Magazine, Colombia.
Hola, Teri, Ruth es un personaje empoderado y valiente, pero hoy en día hay muchas mujeres empoderadas y valientes. Mi que de alguna manera nos hacen cuestionarnos sobre conductas o actitudes del pasado que normalizamos, pero que no eran normales. ¿Ha habido conductas o asuntos tuyos del pasado que tú normalizaste y hoy en día dices no era normal, pero haces la reflexión, si es así, de que podríamos estar hablando?
Well, I hear what you're saying, and you're not wrong in terms of, I think about back to my mother's generation, and she, was a worker at a big company as a secretary, and I can imagine the sort of misogyny that she dealt with. I think so. So you're definitely not wrong in terms of the way, the eras of time, and what women have put up with, for lack of a better words, over time. I think for me personally, I find it to be more helpful to be in the present and look towards the future. Of course, a person learns from their mistakes in terms of, like, you know, what I think I could have done differently in the past in a situation that might have been better. You know, you want to evolve and become, I always call it like you have your toolbox. And your toolbox, it's all of us have different toolboxes of how what kind of tools we have to handle rejection, to handle disappointment, to handle, you know, violation, whatever it is. And so I feel like part of aging, and one of the things that's wonderful about aging, is hopefully you start to gather more and more tools in your life. So as things come at you, you have better tools to deal with things. So I'm always looking to embetter myself as a person, as a member of society. And so where I am now sort of dictates what kind of scenario I would, again, to go back to, put up with, and what I wouldn't. I'm really happy when I see my daughters that at the beginning of her career, she's 27, you know, she has a very different sense of confidence and self-esteem, and I guess sort of boundaries and rules about what she is willing, you know, how she is willing to behave within a situation than maybe I would have, or than my mother would have. But I don't really go back and keep looking at them. I'm more looking forward to how it can be from here on out.
Thank you. Mariana, next question, please.
Fernanda Torres from Reforma newspaper, Mexico.
Hello. So
Hi.
first of all, congratulations. You're very known, you know, for projects like Desperate Housewives, and these kind of projects became, you know, entertainment spaces for women. So I wanted to ask you, as an actress, how difficult it is to find projects that tell stories about women and, you know, with real characters. Do you think the industry is more open to telling these kind of stories made for women?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think it's more and more all the time. And, you know, I think you see a lot of really big stars. I mean, I use Nicole Kidman as an example, you know, having these sort of mandates to work with female directors and female writers. And that's really great. I think Reese Witherspoon's doing sort of a similar thing. Yeah, and women are interesting. You know, women are awesome, and they are very layered and complicated, and there's no end to the stories that you can find to tell. But I do still think it's tricky. It's you know, I hear people all the time, myself included, you know, we'll be working on developing a show for 5 years, and then somebody finally makes it. Like, it's kind of both. You see people in the industry who just, like, they have an idea, and then the next thing you know, it's getting made and it's getting shot. And then you have other people with this kind of illusion of this overnight success, like they've been working on this project for 10 years and nobody knows about it, and then it finally gets made and it seems like a big deal. But so again, I would go back to, I was saying it earlier, I think it's, you know, about opportunity is maybe you have to keep working hard to create your own opportunity, to find stories that people want to know about, and then find people that will help you get it across a finish line. And so that's where my energy is.
Thank you. Next question, Mariana, please.
Yes, Marcel Botelho from Estación Nerd, Brazil.
Hi, Cesar, my friend. Hi, Terry. I am a huge fan. Thank you. Terry, your character is very complex. How was the work involved of research in playing the role? And please send a message for our fans in Brazil.
Well, hello, Brazil. I've actually never been to Brazil. I've been to Peru and Argentina and Patagonia, but I've never made it to Brazil, so it's on my list. But hi, and thanks for watching. Yeah, I mean, as I was saying before, this is a very complicated person, and a very complicated time of a real story of a community that was facing a serial killer, and the people within it lived with a lot of anxiety, and especially Ruth Finley. I can't say that it's hard because this is the craft that I chose. I mean, I love puzzles, I love people, and I love figuring out what makes somebody tick and why. And then trying to be able to portray that honestly and authentically so that an audience can really grab and understand their story. So I really enjoyed doing this movie. I enjoyed the people that I worked with, both in front of and behind the camera. But it's when you delve into these places, like for me throughout the movie, Ruth, her anxiety level goes up and up and up and up and up and up. So like one of the pieces of work that I did was sort of track within the scenes, like, okay, in this scene, Ruth's anxiety level is at a 3. And then in this scene, it's at a 5. And then in this scene, it's at a 7. And I would think like, what does that mean in my body? Anxiety really sits in your body. It makes your heart rate go up, your pulse goes up. Maybe you're sweating behind the back of your neck. Like maybe you have pressure in your temples. Maybe your jaw gets tight. Like those were the kinds of things that the physicality that would kind of ground me into what she was dealing with in a scene. So that was how I approached it. I mean, it was important to me to try to be as accurate as I could to the time frame and to the actual people that lived this story in real life.
Thank you. Next question, Mariana.
Yes, Lupe Torres from La Nación newspaper, Argentina.
Hi, Terry. So I'm from Argentina, and you have just said that you have visited our country. You have a lot of fans here, so I must ask you, what do you like most about Argentina?
Well, I was there a long time ago. I mean, it was in 2014, but I was there for about 3 weeks, kind of all over the country. My daughter, actually, who was in high school at the time, was working on a project, which is for school, which was very cool. But it allowed us to be, towards the end of our trip, down in Ushuaia, which I'll never forget. I remember this. What was it? The city at the end of the world. Is that what they call it? Because it's like the
Ushuaia.
Yeah. And we went skiing and we went hiking. It was snowing. It was your winter time, and I like small towns and nature. And I remember there's a lake there that's at sea level. So there was snow on the lakeside, and we made a snowman at the edge of the lake. I remember that. I have all these pictures. The people are amazing. The people are warm and amazing, and the food was delicious, and we really met some wonderful people. So that was my time there. It was quite a while ago, but I really did enjoy myself.
And do you like Latin American movies?
Oh, I don't know if unfortunately, I don't speak Spanish. I wish I did. So I I'm not sure what would you use as an example?
No, if there was any Latin American director or movies that you like. But it's
yeah,
okay.
nothing comes to mind specifically, but that's just because it's the morning.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mariana, let's go to the next question.
Arturo Tobar from Movies, Mexico.
Hi, Terry. Such a pleasure here, being here talking to you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Everyone's so excited about speaking to Susan Meyer and to Lois Lane, but I gotta tell you, especially happy to be talking to Kiki from Tango and Cash. That's a great movie. Now that's a great movie. I wanted to know, you go from all these parts like Lois Lane, then Susan Meyer. How do you transition from this different kind of women? And now that you go to Ruth Finley, that has this deep anxiety problem, that has to deal with a serial killer, and not fall into this depression or anxiety because of the part. And I'm gonna have another question after you answer this one, please.
Okay, well, I love your dog, first of all.
Thank you, Guarache.
I wish I had my cat on my lap right now, and then that would be good. Well, each project to me, it's separated. So I looking back on Lois or Susan or Kiki or the other mother in Coraline, I love that those have all been sort of earmarks of my career throughout my life, and I love how much entertainment they've brought to people. In terms of Ruth, she was a very anxious and disturbed person. But I'm not really a person who brings that home. Like, I try to do the work to know where all of that energy of that character is coming from. But I try not to, I'm not living that as a real actual person when I leave the set. But it definitely stirs up a lot. It does. And that's part of the fun. I mean, that's what acting is putting your feet in the shoes of someone who isn't you, and getting to imagine what that feels like. And that's my craft, and that's what I love doing, and I'm grateful when I get the opportunities to do so.
Thank you so much. Mariana, next question, please.
Yes, Elian Munoz from Blog de Hollywood, Brazil. Elian?
Mute. Okay, now you hear me.
Yes.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. You seem to like very complex characters. So my question is, how was that you get in touch with the story of Ruth? Because I didn't know about this story. And if you already knew about her, and if you want to have another very complex character in the future to play.
Well, first of all, I think all characters kind of are complex. I mean, even because all people are complex. I mean, even when somebody is just silly and funny and whatever, they're still you're still knowing a deeper sense of who they are. So I try to think that all characters are complex, but I do understand what you're saying. Ruth specifically had a very strange, fascinating story. I was aware of the BTK serial killer. I mean, I was aware of that as a headline. I don't think I knew all the facts, but I had heard of that before. I had never heard of Ruth Finley. And as I said to somebody else this morning, I think, Lifetime does these ripped from the headlines movies. So that they're based on true stories. And this is one that I know will find yourself going, that can't be true. That can't have actually happened. I mean, it is such a fascinating twist at the end. And I think that was compelling to me to want to do. And also, felt like a challenge. Like I hadn't done anything like that in a while, and figuring out, trying to understand how that extreme level of mental disorder could be real. I mean, I did a lot of research on, is this a real thing? And I mean, it is, not just with her, but with other people also. And so trying to live in that person and really find, where does that level of anxiety and where do those wounds come from? It was a really fascinating journey. I think I also, when you see clips of it, I look like an aging woman. I mean, I just turned 60 this year, I think, and I haven't done anything to my face. And I think that that's interesting. And I'm really looking forward to playing more and more real women. And there's a few people in Hollywood that are doing that. I have no judgment about any way that women decide to feel empowered. You should absolutely do whatever it is you want to do. But I kind of liked that I saw Ruth with wrinkles in her forehead and, looser skin in her neck. And I think that was a real woman in a real time in history, dealing with real anxiety from a real wound in her psyche. And I look forward to getting the opportunity to play more complicated people, and they can be funny. They can be funny and complicated, or they can be tragic and complicated. But I look forward to where that road is going to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Araceli Garcia from Crónica newspaper, Mexico.
Hi, Terry.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So you were talking about your age just before. So I'd like to know, how is it for you, to embrace your age? Because sometimes it feels like in Hollywood or in show business in general, you just can be young and look young. That's okay. And when you have your age like visible in your face, that can seem like something bad. So what's your opinion, and how has been your experience in that way?
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, I think there's no right way to do it. Again, it's important to me. I'm all about women and supporting women and women feeling good about themselves. So there's no judgment of any of it. I think beauty through history, it is a thing. I mean, you think about Cleopatra thought, hundreds of years ago, thousands of years, you see these portrayals, with the eye makeup and the costumes that people, from all cultures have done augmentations to themselves that address whatever the beauty in that culture is. So you can't deny that beauty and the way humans respond to beauty is real. So you can't take that away. People respond to youth because it is more beautiful in terms of that. But age can also be beautiful, and in a different way. And I was watching a show called Paradise the other night, and there's an actress. Unfortunately, I don't know who it was. who plays kind of the head of the whole thing. She's like, not the president, but the one that's in charge. And, you know, she has real age on her face. There are actresses in Hollywood who do. And I like looking at that. I like seeing real people. Now, it doesn't mean that I don't like seeing people who, you know, don't have wrinkles. It's a personal choice that I think people have to make. So for me, I think it comes from a place of, you know, I feel lucky to be aging, because if you're not aging, you're underground, you know, and those are really your choices. So for me, I'm trying to age as healthfully, and I mean healthfully, like from a, can I still run up a hill? Can I still go swimming? Can I still hike 20 miles across some coastal path? Those are the things that I enjoy about being human and being alive. Can I still laugh? Can I still cook? Can I still hang out with my friends? I don't really, it's not that I don't care about how I look, but I care about it in a different way. I care about it in a way that, does this make me feel happy? Like the other night I went to this kind of literary book party that a friend of mine was having, and I wore these cream sort of really suit pants, but then I had a t-shirt on with Snoopy with a rainbow, like, and Snoopy was dancing under the rainbow. And it just made me happy. Like, and I don't know if that's fashion or not fashion, but it just made me happy. And so I think there's a lot of acceptance and freedom in aging, in trusting that you should be doing things that make you happy. And if getting a facelift makes you happy, then you should get one. You know, so that's, again, not judgment. But I just think you have to be who you are, and then you have to find the way that you can express yourself. So I don't blame Hollywood for wanting to hire people that are young and beautiful. I don't not blame Hollywood. Like, I don't look at it that way. I look at it like, this is who I am. What kind of opportunities can I create for myself that will make me happy and will make other people entertained? And that's where my focus is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amazing answer.
Oh, thanks.
Next question, please.
Emilio Josami from El Liberal newspaper, Argentina.
Hi.
Buenas tardes, un gusto saludarla, Teri. Le voy a hacer dos preguntas. La primera, ¿considera que la verdad de Ruth Finley rompe con ciertas estructuras narrativas para hablar de temas sobre el acoso, sobre las personalidades de trastorno disociativo? Y por otro lado, la segunda pregunta es, usted dijo en el principio de la entrevista, ¿qué puedo hacer para ayudar a las personas? Y yo le pregunto, ¿qué proyectos tiene Teri Hatcher en el futuro para ayudar a las personas a que tengan una mejor calidad de vida?
Okay, so I think we kind of missed the first question here a little bit. It broke up a little bit. I think you were asking about what was it like for the mental health of Ruth, but could you clarify your first question?
Hacela de nuevo, Emilio.
La primera pregunta es, ¿considera usted que la verdad de Ruth Finley rompe con ciertas estructuras narrativas para contar?
Se cortó la traductora otra vez.
Como lo hacen en el film, o también abordar el tema de personalidades múltiples o de trastornos de identidad disociativa, como decían que tenía Ruth Finley?
No, what you would like to know is that if you feel sympathized, and if you think you were able to portray properly the mental health disorder that Ruth Finley was having, and if you think this will bring certain awareness to people who are suffering from it.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying. We were just having some sound issues here. Yes, I do think I found it actually almost eerily similar connection to like my own childhood wound of sexual abuse. And so I did feel that I had kind of an authentic jumping off point of where Ruth Finley's wound might have come from. Of course, I don't have anxiety. I don't have her mental disorder. But it did make me feel like I could ground into that as a truth for what it is like to be a survivor of something like that. And then having my own personal experience sort of grounded me in a place of like, imagine, which this didn't happen to me, but imagine if the way the chemistry in my brain worked was that, I think Ruth's protective system is what gets executed in this movie, is what you see her do. That's her chemical brain protecting herself. That's why you see the behavior that she ends up having. And I don't want to give it away, but I did feel that I could understand her. I felt like I could empathize with her. And, I do think it's from just an entertainment point of view, I do think it's a fascinating analysis of a character to see that how someone's behavior could be, and the fact that people might learn about this as something that some people do have. So I thought it was really interesting to get involved in the project from that point of view. I think your second question was asking me more about the future and my own projects, like outside of acting or within acting. I have always worked with abuse organizations, homeless people organizations, cancer organizations, like anything that I can get involved with that helps lift people up and out of situations of difficulty, I have tried to do and I continue to do. And within my projects, again, I the range of acting that has affected me, like when I think about I'm the audience and what am I watching, sometimes I just want to be comforted with a silly comedy that just makes everything feel better. Sometimes I want to watch a baking show where people are cooking in a kitchen and that makes me feel happy. And sometimes I really want to be moved by some deeply either fictional history or documentary style of something that humanity has experienced in our world. And I think all of those can be equally valuable, and that's what the arts do, is they pull us all together through our empathy. And so I want to continue to be a part of that and hope to continue to be a part of that.
Teri,
yes.
I want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts, nuestros corazones, for sharing who you really are. This was a gift in more ways than one. Your beauty and your heart presents everything that you represent. Your beauty goes deeper and comes from the within, and the way you touch with every of your words with such compassion and such generosity is not only authentic, it's really beautiful, and we want to thank you for that, because you are truly amazing. Truly amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's just so sweet. What a lovely thing to say. It was so nice to meet you. Thank you very much.
And we are going to bring you back to talk about your Christmas movies for Lifetime, for your Lifetime Christmas movies. So you can share with us all the baking recipes and your decoration of your Christmas village and everything in between. Okay?
Okay, I look
Thank you
forward
so
to
much.
that. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
We love you. Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you.
El asesino desconocido ataca de nuevo.
Un asesino desconocido mantiene aterrorizado a los ciudadanos de Wichita.
El ataque a Shirley Vian cuenta como el 7º asesinato.
¿Estás allá sola? No creo que sea seguro.
El asesino desconocido enviaba cartas a sus víctimas.
Parece que conoce todos mis movimientos.
¿Me extrañaste?
La verdad de Ruth Finley por Lifetime.